Okay, I'm really changing things up now. This is some Hindustani tabla music as opposed to Carnatic, and it's called the Keharwa style. It's a basic Indian style, but in case you haven't noticed, if you've been going through the sequence, this is now episode 19.4, and this is 80 beats per minute, and the last one was 70, and the one before that was 65 and 60. So things are getting faster, because I'm assuming that if you're hanging in there, you might be getting bored of all this slow stuff. So it's getting faster. And what on earth to do with a tabla player, I don't have a clue. Okay. Hey, I don't get to hear tabla that often, so I needed to let it do its whole, whatever I told it to do, 3 minutes and 10 seconds. So this episode is episode 19.4, and the topic is called Rhythmic Scaffolding. This is not a phrase that the rest of the world uses. I made it up. But the basic premise is, if you've been watching these 4 episodes, that if I take 4 different drummers doing 4 different genres at 4 different tempos, none of which I know what they're going to do, and I play along with them, that I can use the rhythmic scaffolding as an underpinning, kind of like a super duper metronome. It's helping me stay in a tempo. It's not forcing me to be the timekeeper, because there is a timekeeper. So it gives me a lot of freedom harmonically and melodically. And by the way, in case you've been noticing, I'm using the bass melodically as well. And not just playing like thumping 1, 4, 5, like the way the bass is used a lot of the time. Using the bass, well, like a sitar. Not quite as fast moving, but still, I'm thinking sitar and tablas using the bass. What the piano's doing, I don't know. I don't know that there's an equivalent necessarily in Indian music to a piano. But that doesn't matter, because we've already spoken about genre busting, so I don't mind if there aren't pianos in Indian music. There are other things that are kind of like pianos. Anyway, back to this rhythmic scaffolding. So here's the deal. Let's say I wrote a couple of dozen songs. And let's say I had a couple of dozen different drum kind of tracks that I made up that I wanted to play along with. And I played those couple of dozen songs with these couple of dozen different tracks. I could play each one of those couple of dozen songs with a couple of dozen different drummers. So that's 24 times 24. That's 576. So the 24 songs I wrote, I get to play as 576 different performances because I'm using the drum part as a rhythmic scaffolding. I'm kind of using it as a metronome so that I don't have to do the timekeeper thing, but I'm also using it as a delimiter between segments. These shows typically are 8 segments, and if I use a different style of drumming, then you could tell whether you're in segment 3 or segment 4, because in this case, the drummer changed from a reggae drummer to an Indian drummer. This concept of rhythmic scaffolding is awfully, awfully powerful. It means that you have an infinite number of ways to play your pieces if you're not overly attached to them being the way you originally wrote them, which I'm not, because I'm a jazzer, so I'm an improviser. And I've only made these 12 drum tracks, and so far I've only played excerpts of 3 different pieces I've written. But a lot of the time I was playing the same thing with 3 different drummers. So listening to the drum pulls out of you different kind of musical expression. So as a musician, if you want to have a bunch more ideas and you can't afford hiring a drummer, because after all, if you're doing these new short works and they're only 8 minutes long and it's like an hour-and-a-half long concert, you kind of can't hire a really good drummer to just show up for 8 minutes. It's kind of cost prohibitive. So I'm sort of using these drum tracks because most good drummers are not going to be willing to come play a gig for 8 minutes unless you paid them for the whole gig, which if there are 8 composers, well, that's not going to work. So using this rhythmic scaffolding principle solves several things at once. It gets me a drummer for a new short work. It gets me a delimiter between segments stylistically. It's like having a musical conversation that pulls out of me things that I wasn't thinking about before. And I got to give you at least 10 seconds worth of tabla to play out. Okay, just to remind you that, hey, you don't have that many tablas and string quartet gigs. But this way you can by using the principle of rhythmic scaffolding.